Hello my friends and welcome back to the garage. Today on the build bench we have a very divisive kit, the Red Gundam from Mobile Suit Gundam Gquuuuuux. The Red Gundam stands 18 meters tall and is much less blocky compared to its original Gundam design counterpart. This Gundam comes to us from an alternate universal century where Shar Aznable was successful in stealing the Gundam, thus leading to Zeon winning the 1-year war. Red Gundam was designed by the same mechanical designer as Evangelion, and the similarities are quite easy to point out. With its skinny limbs and slender body, this is quite a far departure from standard Gundam designs that we all know and love. No matter how divisive this design is, our goal in this channel is to take a look at this model kit and see if it's a good representation of what we see on screen. Let's get into the review, starting with the runners. Let me know in the comments below if this design has grown on you at all, or if you're still wary of these Gquuuuuux designs. The kit that you see on screen is not an out-of-the-box build. This will be covered more extensively in the color accuracy portion of the review. Let it be known that there is quite a bit of paint work included to get this kit close to screen accurate. Red Gundam has 11 runners in the box, with one of those being a polycap runner and 2 more runners being dedicated to the chain and beam sabers. The runner for the chain already existed with the Real Grade 2.0 weapon expansion set. Pretty cool to see it get some continual use here. On these 11 runners are 169 parts, molded in 6 different colors to make up the main build of the Gundam. The build process for the Red Gundam was a bit more complex compared to its brethren within the Gquuuuuux line. The panel lining was a lot more involved for this release, as was the paintwork required for accuracy. To cover the panel lining of the build, first I used my tried and true method of panel lining on the runners with Tamiya accent color black. I would say that this was about 70% effective, as a lot of the panel lines on this kit are really shallow. What this will result in are panel lines that are easily erased during cleanup or lines that are unsuccessful and must be lined with another method. If you're an advanced builder, you may want to rescribe some of these panel lines. The panel lines on the upper thigh are a perfect example. For cleaning up or relining these shallow lines, I opted to use a .003 Pigma Micron calligraphy pen, and it did the job well. Keep this pen handy as we'll need it later for some seamline work. Red Gundam has a bit more surface detail compared to its high-grade contemporaries, so this additional 30% of work requiring a pen or rescribe tools, in addition to the extra time taken to clean up failed or messy lines, adds a bit more time to the panel lining process altogether. I'd highly recommend taking a look at the runners and determining before panel lining which method would work best for each piece. I found the heels of the feet, the end caps of the bits, the upper thighs of the Gundam, the biceps, and elbows all work best panel lined with a pen. I do think panel lining the whole kit is absolutely worth it, as you bring out a lot of nice detail on the design, but be mindful you'll need to spend more time and use multiple methods of lining to bring all of that detail to life. The seam lines on this kit can luckily be hidden in some areas as panel lines. The interior to the back of the calves of the legs and the rear forearms immediately come to mind. There are a few seam lines that are smaller and noticeable. These are on the bicep and on the interior of the calves. Unlike the other lines, these calf lines go directly across the calf and really can't be hidden as a panel line. The seam lines on the main Gundam build for this kit are honestly pretty good. They're small and mostly inconspicuous. The accessories for this Gundam don't fare as well, sadly. The beam rifle has the typical seam down the middle, which is pretty standard for a high grade. The worst seam line offender on the whole kit are the bit weapons themselves. These bits have 3 seam lines total across the circumference of the whole bit itself. Given the bodacious design of these bits, I don't really see any other way this could have been accomplished. No matter what, you would have had a seam line somewhere on these weapons. I believe the kit designers took the most natural looking way to accomplish this, as the seam line down the vertical middle of these bits would look substantially worse out of the box compared to these horizontal seam lines. If you're a builder who likes to close seam lines or picks this kit as a competition piece, you're definitely going to have your work cut out for you. The next time sink here for this kit is going to be color accuracy. This is part of what took this review a little longer than I anticipated to come out. The Red Gundam requires a lot of paintwork to make it screen accurate. You're going to need to add yellow, dark gray, green, and red to this kit. The areas these additional colors are required are mostly on the accessories. The Gundam hammer should have yellow for its thruster holes. The bit connectors for the Gundam do have a sticker included, however these pieces are textured and quite small, so adding these stickers is going to look terrible as they try to wrinkle over the texture of the plastic. The upper thigh has some yellow accent colors and there are some stickers for these. The top of the forearm has some gray pieces. I opted for paint, but there are also stickers for these as well. The shoulder sensors have a sticker, but the stickers are too small to fit over the textured piece of the shoulder. I opted not to use these at all. The shield does have some stickers for color accuracy, some gray strips which I did use as these sit in the recessed channels and are quite easy to apply while maintaining a consistent quality look. There is a Xeon insignia sticker which does not look great once applied. You'll need to apply the Xeon sticker slow and steady to get it to look even remotely presentable. My advice for this insignia would be to wait for water slides to release. This would be fine for an out-of-the-box build, but I felt the adhesive wasn't very sticky for this insignia, so I don't have a high degree of confidence that it would stand the test of time. The parts that need the most paint correction are on the bits themselves. Looking at the art in the manual, there's a lot of paint work that needs to happen on just these bits. The only part that has stickers included for the bits are the red colors on the end of the thruster. That's it. All the yellow and gray details I added by hand with paints. The end cap of both ends of the bit should be a darker gray. I picked the closest shade of gray that I had on my shelf, and I do quite like the lighter gray contrasting with the dark gray of the rifle barrel. The inner prongs of the bit that touch the barrel should be gray. The interior of the end cap of the bit should be yellow. All the little ovals around the bit are yellow and had to be painted, as this comes in gray plastic which does not evoke any semblance of screen accuracy. The gray accents around these yellow ovals needed to be painted by hand. This was the most time-consuming part of the build. These little recessed circles are very small and you have a high margin of error to make a mistake while applying this paint. The only guide you have for these gray accents are the divots in the plastic. Even if you wanted to mask these sections and try to use an airbrush, I think you'll find it challenging to keep the tape from lifting on the edges, as the curvature of these parts is quite steep. A reverse wash might be the easiest method of painting these pieces with an airbrush and keeping the gray accents as uniform as possible. Additional areas that require paint but no sticker is provided is for the yellow vents on the chest, the yellow piping on the forearm, and the yellow piping on the hands. I did the best I could with the hand paint and a brush, but for newer builders or those who aren't good with paint, I think you're going to be sorely disappointed by the color accuracy of this kit out of the box. That being said, if you take the time to paint all these details, it does look really good, and the end result is quite rewarding. Just be mindful this paint correction is going to add a substantial amount of time to this build. I think the end caps of the bits could have had the ovals expanded to allow the gray divots to poke through as plastic, meaning that you would only need a bunch of yellow stickers for the interior of the ovals. Maybe it was a cost-saving decision, but I wouldn't be surprised if some builders lacked interest in this build because of the extra paint work required. Thankfully, the nub marks on Red Gundam are really easy to deal with. The lighter color in conjunction with the soft-feeling plastic made cleaning these nubs using the two-cut method a breeze. The most notable nubs are on the gray pieces on the side of the waist, and some very small nubs on the bicep that are also in line with a mold line. The mold lines on this kit are in a few noticeable places, primarily on the bicep down the middle, and the back of the calves down the middle. The asymmetrical design of the legs doesn't lend the kit to be laid out well to avoid these mold lines. It's just something that we're going to have to deal with and sand out a little bit on the Red Gundam. Because it also appears the Light Cannon and White Gundam will be using a similar mold, we will also face these mold lines on those kits in the future as well. The nubs and mold lines on this kit are manageable and honestly not bad to deal with when we consider this is a high grade with a very unique design. Given the amount of work that already had to go into this kit for color separation and panel lining, I'm happy that dealing with these nubs was a more easy affair for this build. Luckily for the Red Gundam, all the hard parts are out of the way. Given that this is a high grade, it should be no surprise that assembling this kit is easy, quick, and intuitive. The smallest parts of this build are the gray accent strips that are on the shoulders. Those builders with larger fingers may want to use tweezers to install these as they are quite small and very thin. The polycaps for this kit are used in the chest and the Gundam hammer. I don't foresee these polycaps being problematic as they really only provide the inner shoulder swivel for the arms. The rest of the joints are all on swivels. Despite its more asymmetrical design, the assembly isn't much more different than other recent high grades, with a lot of the assembly being two halves coming together to form the limbs of the body. I found the torso section to be really interesting as it's all color separated and basically leads to you stacking different colors one on top of the other for construction. What I also really liked is that certain parts that are only supposed to be installed in one direction are keyed, which makes it so you can only assemble them as they're supposed to be. This completely prevents you from assembling the kit incorrectly and is really nice forward thinking. All around, this was a fun, quick kit to assemble. With the build of the Red Gundam covered, let's go over articulation. The head is on a swivel in the torso. A ball joint in the neck allows head rotation 360 degrees around, as well as tilt 40 degrees in either direction. The head has a built-in swivel within, allowing the kit to look upwards a full 90 degrees. This is perfect for flying forward poses, and some really unique articulation in the head here. The torso has 2 ball joints, one in the abdomen and one in the waist. Extending the abdomen joint a little bit, we can lean left and right a good amount. We can also crunch forward a decent amount. There is no skirt armor on the waist here, so we can move right on to the legs. The legs are interesting as the armor on the thigh sort of blocks the forward kick, so the legs either have to be swiveled downward to kick forward, or the Gundam has to lean in one direction to make clearance. This is just a small quirk of the design and not really a complaint, but something you'll want to look out for as this is a rubbing point for painted builds. With the kick, the Gundam can kick forward 90 degrees. The rear skirt here is static, so kicking straight backwards, we can only reach about 35 degrees. If we swivel the leg out a little bit, we can kick backwards 90 degrees. There is a swivel for a split, but not a full 90 degree flat split. We can swivel the whole leg at the thigh, but only about 65 degrees. The knee is double jointed, giving us a really good leg compression. The foot is on a ball joint in the ankle and 2 swivels in the leg, giving us full rotation of the foot, as well as decent forward to backward movement, and decent side to side tilt movement. The ankle armor free floats on the leg joint, so it's easy to articulate around this joint with it being loose on the foot, rather than it being tied to a swivel somewhere. The arms are on a swivel in the torso driven by the polycaps. Combine the inner swivel in the torso with the swivel at the shoulder and you can get some decent forward to backward reaching motion. Using the shoulder swivels we can get a full T-pose. The shoulder is connected to the torso through a ball joint and can rotate all the way around. The bicep can rotate 360 degrees. The elbow is double jointed, giving us a full bicep curl. The bit attachment point is on a swivel, allowing it to go inward and outward. Finally, the hand is on a ball joint, allowing swivels and rotations all the way around. The backpack has 2 points of articulation, simply on the mounts for the beam sabers. You can swivel these out of the way to freely pose the Gundam with the funnels attached in different configurations. Red Gundam comes with a decent spread of accessories, however you'll need to buy 3 Red Gundams if you want to fully load this Gundam out with the 0079 bits, as there are only 2 included rather than the 6 it's equipped with in the show. However, you can build an accurate 0085 version out of the box with the 2 bits included. For other accessories we also have a shield, a mount for the shield for the backpack, 2 beam sabers and their included blades, different mounting pegs for the bits, and what's nice about this is if you don't have the bits attached to the Gundam, you don't need to have a big goofy peg sticking out of the model, and that's a really nice touch. The Gundam's beam rifle, the Gundam hammer with a really long chain, 2 closed fist hands for weapons, and 1 open hand. The posability of the Red Gundam is really good. Its lanky design helps it pull off some really nice looking poses. Every joint being double jointed also helps with this immensely. The word I want to describe this Gundam with is athletic, in the sense that its poses look natural and more human-like over its bulky robot counterparts from other series. Adding the bits does distribute the weight a bit differently, but this unlocks a different style of posing where the Gundam is wider and more ready for battle. I personally like having the bits on the forearm, but you can attach these to the shoulders or the legs for a myriad of different fun and dynamic looking poses. I had the most fun with this kit posing it around for this review. I believe that about covers everything, so let's go over the final verdict. The Red Gundam was an interesting kit to say the least. Let's go over the pros and cons, starting with the cons. The kit does require a lot of paintwork to make it even remotely close to screen accurate. If you're not the type of builder who appreciates painting, this kit may not be enjoyable to you. Even if you're a builder who is fine using stickers, there aren't stickers for some very important colors here, so it absolutely needs paint in some capacity, especially on the bits. The panel lining for this kit is cumbersome. You absolutely need to do a hybrid of pour type and panel liner pen, or break out the scribe tool and rescribe some of the lines here. This will add to your build time, and depending on what you like as a builder, fixing these panel lines or using 2 methods may be more of a chore than on other kits. The seam lines on the main body of the Gundam are okay, but pretty bad on the bits, and the bits are such an eye-catching large part of this build, you can't help but notice them right away at first glance. Sealing these seam lines would definitely be ideal, so you'll want to take caution if you take the extra step to seal them. The bits already require the bulk of the paintwork as well, so you don't want to screw up any of your paintwork while sealing these seam lines. The list of cons for this kit is relatively small, but they add up a lot of extra work that some other high grades may not require. Now let's go over the pros. This kit does a great job bringing the athletic, lanky look of these new Gquuuuuux designs off screen and onto your shelf. In terms of model kit representation, this kit does a great job nailing the proportions of the Red Gundam. Liking the design is a different story and up to every builder's subjectivity, but the goal of a model is to represent something, and I think the Red Gundam High Grade does a fine job. The articulation here is great and a lot of fun to pose around. Its more minimalistic design lends itself to pulling off some unique poses, and the kit feels sturdy and well balanced despite its boisterous payload of bits and the skinny design. I'm really impressed with the Red Gundam in this aspect. The accessories here are plentiful, and that's really nice. 2 beam sabers, the hammer, the beam rifle, different mounting pegs for the bits, as well as the bits themselves. There's a lot of bang for your buck here. These accessories mixed with a great articulation really give you a lot of options for some dynamic poses. With the Red Gundam, your mileage is absolutely going to vary, and it all depends on your taste as a builder. For me personally, I liked painting this kit as it was a nice challenge to rise to, and I think it came out pretty decent, all things considered. I do think the parts might have been able to be laid out differently to allow better color separation out of the box, but I also don't think we should expect real grade levels of color separation from a cheaper high grade. I didn't like the additional work that went into panel lining. I personally don't like going over the same area 2 or 3 times, so I do wish the panels were a bit more chiseled out of the box. With the Red Gundam, I really do think it's going to come down to appreciating the design and stepping up to the challenge of adding all these extra details. I for one am really glad I warmed up to this design, and with the amount of time I spent on this kit just painting, detailing, and building, I absolutely feel I got my money's worth out of it. I'm really excited for the custom decals to release for this kit, as I think a finished kit with decals and top coat will make this Red Gundam look even better. If you're strictly an out-of-the-box or newer builder, I really do think you're going to feel underwhelmed by the completed kit, as it's really lacking those contrasting colors for the details that this design needs to shine. With the bits being such a large draw in this kit, it will look weird having them in their 2-color out-of-the-box scheme over the 4-color scheme that a screen-accurate representation calls for. Having now built this kit, I'm eagerly looking forward to the White Gundam and even the Light Cannon, as I know I'll have a good time with both of those builds. Thank you all so much for tuning into this review of the Red Gundam. I worked really hard on this, and I wanted to make sure this was a thorough review of what it would take to make this kit screen accurate. If you made it to this part of the video, drop a duck emoji down in the comments to show you're a real bro who watches to the end. I wouldn't be where I'm at today with this channel if it wasn't for my awesome subscribers. Thank you all so much for the support. I hope to see you in the next video, and until then, stay safe, have fun, and happy building.